Dry brushing with metal rubs. In this video, we're going to take this thrift shop find and make it into a good looking classic bronze finish. So again, we found this at the Goodwill and we want to make sure that it gets cleaned. So starting, we're going to just do some soap and water and a microfiber towel, and we really want to make sure we do this step because all these people would have gone through the store and at some point, people are touching it with their bare hands. So we want to make sure we get all that oil and grime from people's hands off. And I'm not getting into every nook and cranny here. I'm not too worried about all of that. But I do want to have a clean base. So just a little Dawn dish soap and some water, and that's good enough for what we're doing here. Next, we noticed some areas where the whatever coating was on there before was coming off a little bit. So I wanted to start with a nice strong black base, and so I'm doing the black smart stain here, and this is just in the canister and really kind of a cool tool, the crown sprayer here, and I'm just going to coat the whole thing black. And I mean, you can do whatever you want. We've got the universals, and you can do this over M24. It all depends on what surface. Since this is kind of a ceramicish piece, that's what I did, was the smart stain. And here I've cut the tips off of one brush, and I've got left one with the whole brush. The important thing with dry brushing is you can't put too much on. So you can see I'm getting it nice and covered, but you want to get that excess off. So I always have paper towels or a cardboard or something to get that excess off. And just go back and forth until it comes off nice and light, and you just barely brush over the top. And you can see that bronze wanting to come in now. And this is something that I don't recommend trying to rush. It looks like I'm going fast, but really you got to move a little bit slower and really pay attention, because if you have too much on your brush, then it just looks off. And if you do this, you'll know exactly what I mean. But a dry brush is supposed to just hit the top surfaces. So that's why I wanted to start with a nice black base, is because it gives us that great highlights that we're looking for. And I'm just trying to get in all these nooks and crannies, and this is where the short one comes in handy, is it doesn't have all the wanting to go everywhere that other brush has. So I just cut it off and have it nice and little, and now I can barely hit just those areas that I need to hit carefully. Now, I don't use this short brush very often. I find that it has it holds a little too much. As you can see here, I'm really having to work at it to get it where I want it as far as how much on the brush. So I don't use it very often, just really in these nooks and crannies where I don't feel like the other brush is going to be helpful. But here I'm going to speed it up so you can just kind of see me coating the entire thing, but it just takes time, as you can imagine. Now, there are a lot of YouTube videos that will show you how to do dry brushing, and there's a lot of different things that you can work on in order to do dry brushing. But I've always found that using my wrist and even just like my 3 fingers that I hold the brush with to be the easiest. If I just move those 3 and try and keep everything else more or less stationary, just moving the piece into the position that I need it to. And that's kind of what's helped me, and I just work with that, and really practice is going to be your best bet if you want to learn how to do a good dry brush. Here you can see I'm zoomed in a little bit better so you can see the color coming on as I do it a little bit better. And you can use smart stains, and you can use the dioxides and universals. You can use a lot of our products like this. You can even use just the colored waxes. But if you're wanting a metallic feeling like this, I find that the rubs are the best bet, and that's really where the rubs excel, is just kind of as a highlight. And here we're going to speed it up so you can kind of see it finish up real quick, but the rubs are really good as a highlight. I don't use them very often as a full coating. We've got like metal coatings and everything for that, and metal coatings would work for this as well, but it's just the consistency of the rubs that make this process very easy overall. If needed, the rubs, after they dry for about 3 days, you can clear coat over the top of them, about 3 or 4 days, depending on how thick you go. But something like this, I know it's just going to sit on the shelf. I'm not too worried about it, so I'm not going to put a clear coat on it. The smart stains are strong on their own. The metal rubs are strong on their own. So I'm not going to put a clear coat over this, but you can if you want, especially if you want to add kind of a matte over the top to give it a little bit more aged. But those choices are just opinions on what you want it to look like when you're done. Now, one final important tip is if you do put too much on, if it's just a solid coat of this metal rub, you can use a solvent to pull it off quickly. So our solvent thinner works really well, but I find that our graffiti remover actually works the best to try and remove it, and then you can just go over the top and kind of fix it, if you will. So now we're just wrapping this up on the base, but here is the final piece, and you can see I'll do a front here so you can see it in good lighting, and you can do it, and here's the back so you can see it. Overall, I'm really happy with how this turned out, and just a really fun piece to sit on the shelf now. Smart stains and metal rubs are available at www.sculptnouveau.com.